Good morning, Sydney. Welcome to 98.2 FM. This is Emma, Shoshana, and Daniel, and we're taking you on your morning drive.
So, what's been new with you guys?
Well, I was having a chat with one of my girlfriends over the weekend, and she recently got an IUD put in.
Ouch.
Right? And she really didn't want to because, But what surprised me was that her boyfriend had no idea what an IUD was. He genuinely thought she'd gotten a fine because in America, driving drunk is called a DUI.
Is that not what we're talking about?
Daniel, please tell me you're joking. Don't you know what an IUD is?
Look, it's not like I was taught this in school, and if I was, do you think I would have listened? Alright, let's assume most of our male listeners don't know what an IUD is. Can you give us a rundown?
So, an IUD is a tiny T-shaped contraceptive which is inserted inside of the uterus to prevent pregnancy from occurring, and they can last 5 to 10 years.
How does that even get inserted? It sounds extremely complicated.
Well, it's not the simplest of procedures, but a doctor uses a speculum to widen the vagina and inspect the uterus.
That sounds very invasive.
I mean, it is, but it's worth it for some girls. Anyway, so then the doctor inserts the IUD by having both arms of the T folded and places it into an applicator tube. It's inserted through the cervix into the uterus, and then the tube is removed, causing the arms of the T to snap into place.
Okay, I think I get it. So, how does it actually work to prevent pregnancy?
Well, that depends on the type of IUD a girl gets, right, Em?
Yeah, there's a copper IUD and a hormonal IUD.
So, what's the difference between them?
So both IUDs have the same shape but different function. The hormonal IUD releases a small amount of progestin daily, which helps prevent pregnancy by keeping sperm away from the eggs, and can help with painful or heavy periods. Progestin makes the mucus in the cervix thicker and also blocks eggs from leaving the ovaries, which prevent the sperm from accessing the egg.
Interesting. So, what does the copper one do?
The copper IUD releases ions which are toxic to both sperm and eggs. It slows the transport of the egg and also changes the lining of the uterus to make it unable to support a fertilized egg.
Gotcha. So, can any woman decide to get an IUD?
Well, not all women are recommended to get one. Those who should consider getting an IUD include women not wanting to conceive a child, or women who can't or don't want to take the birth control pill. Women might be denied an IUD if they have any form of vaginal bleeding or pelvic inflammatory disease.
Okay, so this thing gets inserted in you and stops you from getting pregnant. Does it cost a lot, or is it affordable enough for the everyday Australian woman?
I know that if you have private healthcare, then the hormonal IUD costs around $6, and with a regular Medicare card, then it's $37. However, if you have neither, then it's a whopping $200.
Well, the copper IUD is a little less expensive, coming in at around $120 outside of a public hospital setting, but it's not covered by healthcare in Australia at all.
I still don't understand why it costs so much for a little thing. Has it always been this expensive? Wait, how long have IUDs even been around for?
Even though they were studied earlier, the first useful IUD was made in 1920 and was a ring-shaped device made of silver. The 1960s, though, is when we first saw a more modern IUD, where a plastic IUD with a double S-loop design was created. By the end of the 60s, we had the copper IUD, featuring the iconic T-shaped arms. And in the 70s, we finally got the first hormonal IUDs, which focus more on treating menstrual symptoms.
There must be some kind of side effects or safety issues with this. I mean, the whole thing sounds nuts.
Well, Daniel, we've come a long way since 1920, so the IUD is considered a pretty safe option for most women. However, there are some side effects, like with the hormonal IUD, there's initial irregular bleeding, but eventually it'll decrease the amount of periods you have altogether, which honestly seems worth it.
Although it can cause an increase in vaginal dryness, which defeats the whole purpose of having the damn thing. I mean, can you imagine going to all this trouble to not get pregnant and then having your mood ruined?
The hormonal IUD can also cause headaches, nausea, and acne, but that's typical of most hormonal treatments.
That sounds awful. The copper IUD must be a better option then, right?
Ha! You'd think so, but no. The copper IUD can cause your periods to become heavier and more painful, which is great fun for 3 to 5 days a month. But the advantage is, unlike the hormonal IUD, there are no hormonal side effects.
Well, that's not a terrible list.
Okay, but those are the common side effects. There are also chances of uterine tearing or lodging, risk of infection and rejection, and these do happen. I'm sure we have a handful of female listeners with their own IUD horror stories.
I actually know a few girls who had theirs shift out of place, and it was both horrible and expensive.
And they still got them? That's insane. So they must be working on a way to make them better, right?
Well, they are working on it. The main focus seems to be based off of these issues, like reducing the size of the IUD and reducing costs.
Oh yeah, they've created this new IUD called a Femolis, and it's supposed to reduce the pain of insertion, and it doesn't get expelled as often as other IUDs.
They're also looking into creating an IUD with reduced hormone levels that will both lessen the bleeding seen with copper IUDs while still maintaining contraceptive properties.
It sucks though, because they still can't really figure out how to make insertion painless.
To be honest, I think I know more about IUDs than my own mum now.
It's the education you deserve, Daniel.
Okay, now that we've had our little chat, let's hand it over to the listeners. Give us a call and let us know if you have any IUD stories, or if you just want to tell us what you think about them.
This is 98.2 FM, and we'll be right back after the short ad break with the responses.